And away they go like a wavo in our race of the week from Laurel. Spice Island was the main ingredient in the Long Island handicap. It took a Lionheart to prevail in the Hollywood preview. And McDynamo was the star in the Colonial Cup. We'll have the Mc highlights and more next on Long John Silver's Wire to Wire.
Long John Silver's Wire to Wire, presented by Citgo.
Glad you're with us for our weekly party. Jeff Metters along with Randy Moss. And we start with Final Furlongs, and the highlight here are the 2-year-olds. It's about this time a year ago that Empire Maker made his debut.
And because the Breeders' Cup Juvenile this year was so uninspiring, that's another reason why we're sort of looking under the sheets everywhere we can look for a good 2-year-old for next year. And we certainly saw one as we kick off Final Furlongs with the Laurel Futurity. It was one of 5 stakes races on the DeFrancis Dash undercard. It was won impressively by that horse, the Gray Tappet, trained by Michael Dickinson. He says Tappet is as good as Soto, and you can see why.
Tappet could be any kind of horse. He's pulled away here by 3. Polish Rifle runs him with Ghost Mountain. Tappet tons of horse all the way around the track, and Ramon Dominguez comes home for a cruise in the Futurity.
Tappet broke a bit slowly, rank on the first turn, tucked behind horses waiting for room, and then goodbye. This was his second start. He won his first one by nearly 8 at Delaware Park. A couple of decent prospects behind him in this race, Polish Rifle and Ghost Mountain. Look at the buyer at 98. Tappet now goes to Florida for the winner. He was the last horse purchased by the late owner Vern Winchell, and now races for Winchell's family. Another Laurel undercard race, the Anne Arundel for 3-year-old fillies, won by 8-1 Smooth Maneuvers, who led all the way under Mario Pino to outrun Bill Mott-trained odds-on favorite Devotion Unbridled by 2.5. Smooth Maneuvers now has 4 wins in a second and 5 starts. Bred by Jim Squires, the former Chicago Tribune editor who also bred Monarchos. Now to Aqueduct, where favorite Volga put away pace setter Banyu Dewey in the Long Island Handicap, and Volga looked like a winner at this point until Spice Island, 4th right there, begins to kick into gear.
Spice Island coming with a bold late run. 100 yards from home, Volga trying to hold off the oncoming Spice Island, and Spice Island surges past to win.
Wow, Spice Island finishing strongly at 1.5 miles over kind of yielding turf, ridden by Victor Carrero. This was Spice Island's 2nd straight stakes win and her first in a graded race. She is improving. Julie Crone made her return to New York and ran 3rd in this race on Banyu Dewey, but Julie won 2 other races on Saturday's Aqueduct card. Also at Aqueduct on Tuesday, a special Veterans Day program, the Stuyvesant for older horses. Sarland was the 6-5 favorite, but the horse in front, Presidential Affair, ridden by Richie Migliore, made a pretty easy early lead and took the Stuyvesant field wire to wire at odds of 7-1. He opened up 3.5 in mid-stretch, and Presidential Affair just barely held off the late charge by Frank Stronach's Thunder Blitz there in the black silks. Sarland, no real excuse. He finished 6th in this race as the favorite. That's 9 stakes losses in a row for Sarland, who seems to have all the key ingredients for success, except one big one, and that would be desire. Now for 3-year-old fillies, here is a courageous effort. Ho Buzzard was up on the lead in the Mrs. Revere on yielding turf at Churchill Downs, and then Odd came flying at her in the last furlong. Odd had all the momentum.
Odd's coming quickest of all now under Brian Peck to the inside of Ho Buzzard. Ho Buzzard digs in. Odd surging at her. Ho Buzzard a nose. Odd on the inside. Can't get her. Ho Buzzard hangs on.
In her 2nd U.S. start, British import Ho Buzzard gamely holds off Odd. Favorite Casual Look was 5th. Ocean Drive 6th. Filmmaker 8th. Casual Look has now been retired. Ho Buzzard was ridden by Ryan Fogelsonger. It was Fogelsonger's first Churchill Downs mount, and he said he got lost in the stretch. He didn't know where the wire was, so he just kept riding. That was Saturday. On Sunday at Churchill, the River City Handicap. In front, that's the Steve Asmussen-trained Wardley, coming off 2 big stakes wins at Louisiana Downs. But rallying inside is Hard Buck, the Brazilian bred. And it is Hard Buck getting up and is now 3 for 3 in the U.S. under trainer Ken McPeak. He was 11-1. Dr. Kashnikow, defending champion twice in a row there, was scratched. Tappet looked good at Laurel, but the same could be said for Lionheart at Hollywood.
Lionheart is toying with the Hollywood preview field. He is opening up again. He's in the middle of the track, and he is a star in the making. Look at this guy run away in, and wow.
Lionheart. We mentioned last week he was impressive in his maiden win. Now he's 2 for 2. That was the 7-furlong Jack Daniels Hollywood preview. He races for co-owners Michael Tabor and Derek Smith. The buyer speed figure 1:02, and he set a stakes record for 7 furlongs, 1:20.63. Trainer Patrick B. Cone said his next start should be the December 20th. Hollywood Futurity Mike Smith aboard Lionheart. Another 2-year-old romp at Hollywood. This was Sunday. Moccasin Stakes. We're going retro on you here. Hollywood sent us black and white video. It doesn't matter. It's Victory USA. Bounding home. She was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Didn't have much to beat in here under Julie Crone, but she did it by 7 lengths. Look for her in the Hollywood Starlet, as you see there on December 21st. That was Julie's first day riding at Hollywood Park, and she won 4 races out of 6 mounts. Remington Park, the Oklahoma Derby Sunday. Comic Truth won by 10. He destroyed a decent horse, the odds-on favorite Excessive Pleasure, for his first win of the year. Look at the buyer, a 1:11. Scheduled to be ridden by Rafael Bejarano, who was fogged in at the Memphis airport. The trainer, Patrick Daly, got the news he was buying a racing form. He asked the salesman, who should I get? They said Cliff Berry, and Cliff Berry was aboard. 2 races to show you from Florida Million Day. This is the Carl Rose Classic.
Best of the Rest now leads by a length. To the inside, it's Tour of the Cat. 2 lengths back. The judge says who with Dancing Guy. They come to the wire. It's Best of the Rest. He's going to win it all. Takes the Carl G. Rose by a length.
That's 2 in a row in the Carl Rose Classic for 8-year-old Gray, Best of the Rest. A month ago, Tour of the Cat beat him in the Spin to Buck. This time, Abarcoa kept Best of the Rest close to Tour of the Cat on the backstretch. The pressure paid off. It may be his last start. Scheduled to go to stud next spring. He's owned by 83-year-old Bea Oxenberg, who lost her husband Bernie on October 31st. So it was a very emotional winner's circle. And 3 promising colts in the the Juvenile Filly Stakes. First of all, the Joe O'Farrell. Chatter Chatter doesn't win by 20 this time. Ridden by Jerry Bailey. She was under some pressure, but she managed to win anyway by about 2.5, 3 lengths there. That was Bailey's 67th stakes win of the year, 1 shy of Mike Smith's record, and plenty of time to break it. Now for the colts in the Jack Price Juvenile, 3 promising ones. Unbeaten Sir Oscar, unbeaten Win.Comma, and also Stolen Time. Win.Comma on the rail. The 3 to 5 favorite.
The outside reaches the lead. Then to the inside, it's Win.Comma. 2 lengths back, Stolen Time to the outside, twice as bad. They come to deep stretch. It's Sir Oscar in front. He's going to take the Jack Price Juvenile.
Sir Oscar's leg action leaves a lot to be desired, but he's now 6 for 6. The last 4 against Florida breds. Win.Comma second, Stolen Time third. Sir Oscar's 7 furlong time, a 2.5 faster than Chatter Chatters. Look for Sir Oscar next winter on the Florida Derby Trail. Buyer figure a good 97. Julio Garcia in the saddle.
Love the retro. It looked like Seabiscuit won the moccasin. Here's how the rest of the half hour shakes out. We'll revisit Texas Champions Day down at Sam Houston, and McDynamo was the Mac Daddy in the Colonial Cup.
You're watching Wire to Wire on ESPN.
This ESPN2 presentation of Long John Silver's Wire to Wire is brought to you by Long John Silver's. Seafood the way it ought to be. Citgo, we know you. The American Quarter Horse Association. Let freedom ride.
McDynamo's a horse that probably already had the Eclipse Award for steeplechase wrapped up after winning the Breeders' Cup steeplechase, and you think they might play it safe, put him on the shelf. No way. He headed down for the Colonial Cup.
He won the Breeders' Cup steeplechase by 15 lengths, but the Colonial Cup was the last Grade 1 of the year in steeplechase racing on Sunday, and McDynamo showed up to sort of put an exclamation point on his year, or at least he tried to. The race was Sunday. The Marion DuPont Scott Colonial Cup at Camden, South Carolina. Marion DuPont Scott, a remarkable woman, when she died in 1983, she bequeathed the Springdale Racecourse to the state of South Carolina. You can see it's a beautiful venue. It also includes the National Steeplechase Museum. And this was the 34th running of the Colonial Cup. And we had quite a field. Al Skywalker, a 2-time Carolina Cup winner at the Springdale course. There was Najim, a son of Dynaformer. Also, Lord Zada, who won the 2001 running of the Colonial Cup and set a course record on that day. Moulahan, ridden by David Bentley, who shared the NSA's Jockey of the Year title with Matt McCarron, the nephew of Chris McCarron, who rode Pelagos, the winner of the Iroquois Hurdle, on May the 10th. Then you had Hot Spur, trained by Jonathan Shepard, and, of course, the big horse. He's geared up there, McDynamo. This race run over 17 fences, a very unique course. None of the fences was jumped more than once. Tony Bentley with the call.
And here they come now as they move towards the top of the straight in Colonial Cup 34. Mick Dynamo has the lead by 3. Lord Zada, who's won this race before, trying to stay with that one. It's 4 back to Al Skywalker. And they turn for home. Mick Dynamo has the lead. Lord Zada gamely tries to stay with this champion. It is Mick Dynamo. First over, Lord Zada. On the inside is next. It's 6 back to Al Skywalker. Here they come now to the final jump. Mick Dynamo has the lead. On the inside, Lord Zada is next. Mick Dynamo is in front by 3. Lord Zada gamely there in second. But it's Mick Dynamo. Mick Perfect here, winning Colonial Cup 34.
Mick Dynamo became the first horse since the legendary Lonesome Glory to win 3 Grade 1s over the jumps in 1 year. He won the Royal Chase and the Breeders' Cup Steeplechase, now the Colonial Cup. Trainer Santa Hendricks saddled the first 2 finishers, but she wasn't there. She stayed home for good reason. She dropped a foal. She had her first son, Parker, on Friday, but we heard from the owner and the trainer and the jockey.
I thought he was very impressive today. I mean, you never really know what kind of horses you run against until the end of the year. I guess we'll find out, you know, as time goes on. If he, I mean, he looks like he's a really good horse. He doesn't seem to have too much pressure disposing in the company disposal. Craig said he won as easily today as he did at Far Hills. He may not have won as many lengths, but he did it more tactically today than he did at Far Hills.
For the speed in the race, I was able to tuck him in. He was still traveling plenty well enough for my liking.
Does he pull you? I mean, coming by with a turn to go, it looked like you were just, you know.
He's taking me pretty good. And jumping off this ground, he was just electric, you know. I'm looking to pop away because I'm getting there too soon. But he didn't want any part of popping away off this ground. He had springs on his heels. You got to give credit where credit is due. He's a serious horse. I wouldn't like to try and beat him.
Our man Joe Clancy asking the questions there. Mick Dynamo now 7 of 9 lifetime over the jumps. His only loss, a second place finish, and also a race in which he fell. Mick Dynamo, quite a steeplechaser.
Time to put the spotlight now on Sam Houston Park, where they had Texas Champions Day. 8 races worth $550,000. We'll focus on 2 of them, the Star of Texas and the Texas Juvenile. Starting with the Star of Texas, the richest race on the night, worth $100,000. A mile and a 16th, most feared was the favorite.
Desert Derby on the outside, who puts ahead in front, coming to the 70-yard marker. Record Assembly is not giving in. Aggravating General on the outside, and another photo finish.
It is a dead heat between Desert Derby and Record Assembly. Desert Derby trained by Steve Asmussen. Asmussen, along with Jeremy Beasley, the jockey, had 4 stakes wins on the card. The favorite, most feared, a well-beaten 5th. The Texas Juvenile, the only race on Texas Champions Day not restricted to the Texas bred. America wouldn't let a little traffic problem stop her late bid.
America has an opening from between horses. America shooting through. And America got the racing room late, and the filly beats the boys.
Philly's quite a story. 3 wins and 16 tries this year. She's raced at Gulfstream, Great Britain, Germany. She's been to New York, Canada, Keeneland, and now Sam Houston. She's been going non-stop since April and won nearly $300,000. And we're not finished in the Lone Star State in speed trials for the Texas Classic Futurity and Derby. And later, we'll preview a handful of races, including the Hollywood Turf Cup. Back on Wire to Wire, our Citgo leaderboard, AQHA champion trainer Paul Jones, an all-time single-season quarter-horse earnings record, over $3.5 million, breaking the record set incredibly by Blaine Schwanevelt way back in 1984. Jones could go over the $4 million mark. He still has horses to saddle in the Los Al Million and the Champion of Champions. In speed, we start down at Lone Star Park, where they're setting the fields for the Texas Classic Futurity and the Texas Classic Derby. First up is the Futurity. This year it's worth just a shade more than $1 million. Fastest qualifier turned out to be a filly who was still looking to break her maiden. Here's the call.
Racing off the inside, Sixes Royal begins fairly. Soxaline and a Friendly Toast with Razzaby Daz pretty much get the best of it, but now the favourite is motoring through, and Sixes Royal now joins Razzaby Daz. Sixes Royal with Razzaby Daz are going to fight it out. Razzaby Daz just in front and might have won.
Razzaby Daz, a special leader filly. She cruises to the fastest qualifying time and wins the first race of her career Jockey G.R. Carter qualified the first and the 8th fastest qualifiers. Sixes Royal, who finished second here, also makes the finals. As I mentioned, this is a $1 million race, the distance 400 yards. This will be the richest race run to date in Texas. The final will be on November 29th. No trainers had multiple qualifiers. In fact, there were 15 trials. No one made the final after trial number 10. Moving up to the 3-year-olds in the Texas Classic Derby trials. The prize money drops here, but the competition level takes a jump forward. Show Me and Roy Baldiaz are about to make a splash.
Racing. Athena Raquel and Hale Corona commence nicely with Shake 'em, Rita Ballou and Snowme's right on the attack. Holland Song between horses, then first dash away past the 8th pole, and it's Snowme with the lead. In second position, Red Dog leader starting to set after the leader Gamely, but it's Snowme with an unassailable lead.
Snowme is a gelding by This Snow is Royal. He's owned by Jim Helzer, who also campaigned Refrigerator, the industry's all-time leading money winner. Sleepy Gilbert is the trainer. He will be a busy man on final night. Sleepy advanced 3 to the finals, 2 of those owned by Helzer. This final will be on November 28th. The total prize money here, $362,000. They will run the classic distance of 440 yards. Trainers Jack Brooks and John Buchanan both will have multiple qualifiers. They will each saddle 2. Finally, at Los Alamitos, the Corona Chick Handicap, a grade 3, limited to the 2-year-olds. Sensual Lady and West Coast Okie headlined a short field.
And away they go. And a beautiful start on the outside for West Coast Okie with Sensual Lady running strongly down along the inside. Mr. Quickbacks. Prankster now begins to close in, as well as West Coast Okie is just in front. Down along the inside is Sensual Lady, and Prankster is flying in between horses as Sensual Lady is coming home powerfully, and Sensual Lady wins it over Prankster.
Gate to wire, it was all Sensual Lady, a great filly by Chicks Beduino. The favorite, West Coast Okie, lacked a little bit of a late kick and faded to finish third. Prankster CF finished second. Now, he's owned by Joan Dale Hubbard, the wife of Riadosa Downs owner R.D. Hubbard, and, of course, trained by record-setting trainer Paul Jones. For information on how you can become an owner of a Racing American Quarter Horse, just call 1-800-414-RIDE. And now we get into our NTRA Grade Stakes segment. They've been racing now at Hollywood Park for a couple of weeks, and coming up this weekend, the Grade 1 Hollywood Turf Cup.
And guess who's got a horse in there? Bobby Frankel. But it's not just any horse. He will saddle a filly, Megahertz, in the $250,000 mile-and-a-half turf race. That'll be on Saturday. Megahertz. Frankel's had trouble finding a race for her. He was going to take her to Churchill Downs for the Cardinal Handicap on Saturday, but the course has been kind of soft in Kentucky due to all the rain. So he's going to keep her home and run her against the boys, against a decent field. There's some other top horses in there, or at least one other pretty top horse, and that would be the 10-man here, finishing second in the UN Handicap. The 10-man, 5th in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Also, morning, Michael Dickinson is going to ship a horse across country for that race, a horse called Bowman Mill. Then there is the Red Smith Handicap, also Saturday. That's a 1 3/8 on the turf, $150,000 added. Barkley Tag will send out McCaw, second in his last start here in the Canadian International. McCaw also second in the Sword Dancer, third in the Bowling Green. Hasn't won a race yet this year, but McCaw could be the favorite in the Red Smith. And speaking of the Cardinal, on Saturday at Churchill Downs, 1 1/8 on the turf without Megahertz, Bien Nicole, here romping in the WinStar Galaxy, should be the favorite in that race. She was 9th in the Breeders' Cup Billion Mare Turf. Also for the Cardinal, Risk Averse, and last year's winner, Quick Tip.
Here's a look at the stakes schedule for the weekend. The races we talked about, the Hollywood Turf Cup, the Red Smith at Aqueduct, the Cardinal at Churchill Downs, and on Sunday at Aqueduct, it's the Grade 3 Valley Stream Stakes. Well, all we have left is our race of the week. Imagine winning a Grade 1 with a horse that's only made 2 starts in 4 years. It can happen. The details when we come back.
This ESPN2 presentation of Long John Silver's Wire to Wire is brought to you by Long John Silver's Seafood, the way it ought to be. Citgo, we know you. NTRA.com. To learn more about the sport of horse racing, log on to NTRA.com. Equibase.com, your official online source for racing information, from entries to results and everything in between. Equibase.com is a service of Equibase Company, the thoroughbred industry's official database.
You're invited back next week for Long John Silver's Wire to Wire. First chance Tuesday at 1 Eastern on ESPN2. For more information, go to ESPN.com, click on horse racing. Time for our race of the week, the DeFrancis Dash from Laurel. Some good horses in here, Shake You Down, Gators and Bears. Who was thinking of Wavo?
I think it's safe to say that even owner Mark Hopkins and trainer Michael Dickinson didn't necessarily expect to win with Wire Thu. Against Shake You Down, the 4-5 favorite, third-place finisher in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, Wire Thu added yet another page to the remarkable training resume of Mr. Dickinson.
And they're off. Agadan and Boston coming, firing out, take a chance on me, crossing point, Shake You Down right there in between horses in that speed scramble as well. Gators and Bears settles just 2 lengths on the front, followed by Outstander and Way to the Top and Highway Prospector. And the late running Wire Thu trailing the field at about 13 lengths off a crossing point of Bullets for the far turn. Leading Shake You Down by 3/4 of a length. Gators and Bears is next in third, take a chance on me, racing along next in fourth. The inside is Way to the Top. And on the far outside is Boston Common. In between horses we have Agadan. It's another 2 back to Outstander. Wire Thu trying to unwind from second last. And Highway Prospector is the trailer. The opening quarter went 21/4 of a second. And it's still crossing point with Shake You Down rolling up to even terms on the outside. After a half mile, 44 2/5 of a second, and they turn for home in tandem. Gators and Bears and down to the inside. Way to the Top trying to pick a way through. Extreme outside, Wire Thu, and Wire Thu's coming with a big run on the far outside. Shake You Down, Wire Thu, Way to the Top in between horses. Gators and Bears, a 3-year-old fights on. It's Wire Thu just in front, and it's another Michael Dickinson miracle. Wire Thu wins.
Wire Thu, just his third start in 4 years. Michael Dickinson also won the 98 Breeders' Cup Mile with the Haas, who only had 1 start in 2 years coming into that race. I guess it's safe to say he's pretty good with horses coming off a layoff. This horse has had chips in his knees, chips in his hind hocks. That's why it's kind of led to this kind of a layoff. Good day for Dickinson. He also won the Laurel Futurity a little bit earlier.
Of course, this wasn't the Breeders' Cup, but it was just as impressive in its own way as the Haas. I mean, this horse not only had the chips and all that, as you see, he'll get a little pinched back at the start and Shake You Down will bobble just a bit, but no real excuse. But he also, during that 4-year period of time, had suspensory problems, had tendon problems. They kept trying to bring him back. He was lame. They try again. He was lame again. And yet he comes back, third start, 4 years, wins this race under a hand ride in a Beyer speed figure of 1:13. At one point, owner Mark Hopkins told Dickinson during that 4-year period, you think maybe we should just give him away, find a good home for him? They said, no, let's keep going. We can get him back, and they did. That's the good news. The bad news, he came out of this race with another tendon injury. They don't know when or if they'll be able to bring him back. My guess is we'll see him next as a 9-year-old to win the 2005 running of the Francis Dash.
He's a hard luck horse. All right, viewer mail, we dip into the bag. And Jared Hayes, who grew up in Kentucky, now lives in Portland, Oregon, has to watch Wire to Wire just to get his horse racing fix. Had a chance to go to Tailor Made Farm. Randy asked for pictures, and Jared took him here, but he just sent real quiet. Nothing really of him.
It's not exactly the kind of, I don't care about him. This is not exactly the kind of pictures we had in mind. Is that the subway, Jared? He was back to the camera.
You can't tell. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Viewer mail at ESPN, wiretowire.com. So what kind of pictures did you want?
No comment.
No comment. Hey, thanks for joining us for this edition of Long John Silver's Wire to Wire. We'll, of course, we'll be back next week. Another round as we continue to race, and everybody keeping their eye on the Eclipse Awards, which are coming up just after the first of the year. The racing continues. We'll see you next week.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com.